You've tuned into The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lain. Gardening, it can be challenging, but with these simple insider tips, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, let's tune into today's Mountain Gardener with Ken and Lisa. And we are back here on The Mountain Gardener. And pollinators, pollinator plants, things that benefit butterflies, hummingbirds, bees, moths, things that fly around, the fairies of the garden. How do we encourage more of those? And I think we can save the planet. I think we can help bees. We can help the monarchs migrate through, and they're in decline. I think we can help them. And one of the smartest plant people I know is Jim Rupe with Monrovia Growers. He grows a lot of these different kinds of pollinator plants that are designed specifically to be beautiful and to attract different types of pollinators. So, Jim, welcome to the studio. Glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
So you have got a separate program coming up. Your focus, like head down. We're going to help. We're going to do this. And so I love the marketing material, the social media posts you guys are putting out. You've got some brilliant plants and educational things. What brought that on? I mean, has this been a coming for years, or is there an actual growing interest in pollinators?
I would say there's definitely an interest in pollinators.
I would too.
And especially with bees.
Yeah.
As a lot of our lands have been kind of bulldozed over.
Yeah.
You just don't have as much of the native plant material there as before for a lot of the pollinators. So just a lot of interest in the last few years across the country with pollinators.
I think even apartment dwellers and townhomes and the smallest of homes to the gigantic homes and everything in between, all of us can do something, even on our back deck.
Oh, yeah.
A container of a butterfly bush or anything.
Yeah, rosemary.
Makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And if it's blooming, I mean, the bees are going to find it. The butterflies are going to float around. They're going to go, I'm tired. I feel hungry. I'm going to go there.
Yeah. And, one thing I want to, mention is, when somebody's coming in, a lot of times they're looking what's got color on it.
Yeah.
And that's great color, it sells, it's attractive. But, if somebody's really wanting to make a pollinator garden, to attract pollinators, you need plants that aren't just blooming when you're buying them, when you're thinking about it, but what's going to be blooming 2 months before, what's going to be blooming 2 months after in the fall, to feed the bees and the pollinators.
Sure.
So, I go around, my routes and, things like camellias. I was down in Phoenix. It was like December. There were some camellias blooming, not much else blooming in the desert then, but there was like 20, 30 bees swarming around these few camellias blooming, so you think about, that's a good pollinator plant for that time of year to give them something to eat.
Absolutely.
So important to just think, through the season, if you're wanting to make a pollinator garden, it's not just what's blooming then when you're thinking of making it, but, you got to think about throughout the year, what can I plant in my yard that's going to feed them consistently?
I think of often, just to be selfish. So a lot of folks, they wonder why their fruit trees don't cross-pollinate very much. If you plant rosemary, it blooms about the same time that your fruit trees do, and it's blue. I mean, bees love the color blue.
Yeah.
They're just attracted to that part of the garden. They can't resist it. And while they're there, they're going to pollinate your vegetable garden, your fruit trees, your berries. They're just going to naturally be there because they're foraging. They're looking for flowers to pollinate back and forth.
Yeah.
That's what bees do.
I love to have like rosemary or caryopteris around my garden.
Sure. Yeah.
Because those are good, especially the caryopteris is a good summer blooming plant, early summer blooming. When your squash is blooming and some of your other things you need pollinators for. So it's really crucial to think about having some key shrubs that are a magnet, they're just like eye candy to the bees as they're flying over at 100 feet, like, whoa, dive down there and visit.
Right now we have Salvia greggii, or autumn sage. Although it's spring blooming, we call it autumn. I don't know why, but it's just Salvia greggii is in full bloom. The hummingbirds are all they're almost a nuisance in the greenhouse. It was like, come on, guys, come on. I just need one to share. So they really, really like that. The bees like that one.
Yeah.
So it's a good, strong pollinator, and it's a shrub. Comes back for years and years and years. So easy. You plant it once, and you're helping the pollinators for years to come. I think we can be better. We can save the world. We can save the bees. We can save butterflies, monarchs. We can do this.
Yep.
And all it takes is a few key strategic plants to encourage them to come into our gardens. It's sad that we bulldoze over entire prairies, put up homes, rock it over, and then we don't think in terms of what do we just do? We can actually reintroduce some key pollinator plants that'll help them.
Right.
I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what's your favorite? What's a collection people could use maybe that you see at the farm that we're going to have here at the garden center they could plant in their own yards?
Yeah. As you mentioned, the salvia, the autumn sages are just great for long-term color from when they start blooming in spring all the way through summer and into fall. So you can't beat that. Things like coneflowers.
Oh, good choice. Yeah.
The rosemary we talked about, agastache.
Sure. Summer bloomer.
Yeah. I love buddleia.
Butterfly bush. You can't go wrong. Yeah.
But I like that one because it attracts us hummingbirds, butterflies, and the bees. So it's a triple.
Yeah.
Win-win-win.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
I loved your new Miss Molly series of butterfly bush, because butterfly bush is too big for most yards. And so you figured out how to dwarf it, how to keep it in check. So now it only gets chest high or hip high instead of the size of a garden shed.
Yeah.
And so now we can have the same flower, same bloom cycle, even better colors without all the maintenance of, cutting this thing back. So it's a brilliant move. Love it. That new, what's it called? Lilac, Little Rascal. Did I get that right?
Little Darling.
Little Darling. A dwarfed lilac, which bees are going to like, bright blue, not purple, bright blue. And then it blooms twice. Once in the spring, great fragrance. And then when the monsoons come, it blooms again.
Yep.
So, genius.
And that one goes back to okay, it's going to bloom late winter, very early spring when not a lot of perennials aren't blooming or anything. So it's, nice to have that as a pollinator plant for when a lot of stuff isn't blooming. So
I would encourage folks, if you're thinking in terms of pollinators or just fun, if you just want to make your garden dollars go farther for longer, perennials are a great way to go. And I define perennials as those plants that come back year after year. A lot of perennials hibernate underground, like you said, the echinacea, some of these others, coneflowers.
Yeah,
they hibernate underground. They come back fresh every year. But I also define some of the smaller shrubs as a perennial. So your Salvia gregii, the shorter dwarfed lilacs. You've got a new dwarfed forsythia. Brilliant little tiny plants. They go in gardens, they go in containers, go in raised beds, or just in the landscape. But now you put it in once and it's going for years to come.
Right.
That's a great way to get the most out of your landscape dollars. And they're a little bit more expensive because you're holding them on for 2-3 years. But when you put them in the ground, you get decades of enjoyment. The average age of a peony, 50 years. They stay in the ground pretty much a lifetime.
Think about that, Ken. You spend $39, $49 for decades of enjoyment.
Yeah,
is that a deal?
Are you a salesperson or what?
You can go spend $49 on a dinner for an hour.
Right.
It's enjoyable, but $49 for decades. I like it.
I'll give you a $20 bill later after this. That's pretty good. That's actually a good point. That's not wrong.
It's not wrong.
It's pretty good. Yeah. So I think you can blend perennials and annuals. There's this mixture. You can make it beautiful, but basically coming back to it, pollinators, we can make a difference. We can attract. There's nothing more beautiful than a swallowtail butterfly floating around the back patios, sucking on the nectar of all your container plants. Yep. It's a magical experience. Yeah. Hummingbirds coming in, just buzzing around, eating the nectar from your flowers. That's a magical experience and unique to, I think, the mountains of Arizona. Well, Jim Rupe with Monrovia, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking a moment in the studio.
Thank you, Ken.
And thanks for bringing in such great plants for us. I know I like to think that we're special, and I know we are. because you take care of us like no one
Waters
else.
Garden companion plants for June are moonshine yarrow, silverberry, Hall's honeysuckle, and sunburst locust.
Sunburst locust cheerfully shouts, "Hello, spring," with its glowing yellow leaves.
As summer heats up, it settles down to a naturally cool green, only to turn gold again in the autumn.
This Waters exclusive casts a dappled shade, perfect for reading books or sharing an outdoor meal, and impervious to deer.
You'll find the coolest trees here at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
For a more fruitful garden, increase success in the landscape that just feels better, then tune in daily to the Mountain Gardener podcast. Subscribe through your favorite podcast streamer or visit watersgardencenter.com. Better yet, visit me directly right here at Waters Garden Center. Thanks for tuning in.